Within the Adirondack Mountains lies a body of water that the indigenous people once called the water that is between. Lake George is a place of breathtaking beauty where the water is clear, and the mountains stand as silent sentinels over the history of the land. However, amidst the natural splendor, there is a darkness that clings to the shores and the islands that dot the surface of the lake. One island, in particular known as Green Island, hosts a structure that is both magnificent and terrifying. The Sagamore Resort stands as a testament to luxury and leisure. But beneath its pristine white facade lies a history of fire and death, and spirits that refuse to move on from the earthly realm. The water reflects the stars, but it also hides the secrets of those who have perished here. Green Island is not merely a foundation for a hotel, but a trap for the souls that wander its grounds. The isolation of the island creates a psychological barrier that separates the guests from the mainland and from reality itself. When the fog rolls in off the lake, it wraps the resort in a suffocating embrace that stifles sound and obscures vision. Guests who walk the grounds at night often report a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes that peer from the shadows of the pine trees. The wind that whistles through the eaves of the hotel sounds like the whispers of the dead, trying to communicate messages that the living are too afraid to hear. It is a place where the past is not dead, but living alongside the present. The history of the Sagamore is a cycle of destruction and rebirth that seems to feed the negative energy of the location. The first hotel opened its doors in the year 1883, attracting the wealthy elite from Philadelphia and New York City. These tycoons and socialites sought escape from the grime of the city, but they brought their own demons with them to the lake. The opulence of the Gilded Age was on full display, with grand ballrooms and sprawling verandas where the rich played at being carefree. Yet the very wood that built their palace was destined to become kindling for a disaster that would scar the land forever. The laughter of the summer season was merely a prelude to the screams that would eventually echo across the water. In the year 1893, a catastrophic fire swept through the original structure, reducing the Grand Hotel to a pile of smoldering ash and twisted metal. The flames were visible for miles, illuminating the night sky like a beacon of destruction. While the guests managed to escape the inferno, the emotional imprint of the terror remained burned into the soil of Green Island. The fire did not cleanse the land, but rather seemed to awaken something dormant beneath the earth. The sheer intensity of the blaze created a scar on the psyche of the location that no amount of rebuilding could ever fully heal. It was the first violent chapter in a story that would continue to unfold over the next century. The owners refused to accept defeat and rebuilt the hotel determined to conquer the misfortune that had befallen them. However, the element of fire was not done with the Sagamore. In the year 1914, a second fire claimed the resort once again, proving that wood and ambition were no match for the forces of destruction. This second blaze was even more devastating, as it seemed to confirm a curse upon the land. The current structure, which stands today, was built in the year 1930, using steel and concrete in an attempt to defy the flames. Yet, while the building became fireproof, it became a prison for the energies that had accumulated over decades of tragedy and fear. The architecture of the current hotel reflects the colonial revival style, a grand dame of the lake that imposes its will upon the landscape. The long corridors and spacious rooms were designed for comfort, but they have become the roaming grounds for entities that time has forgotten. The strategic layout of the resort, with its wings spreading out like the arms of a ghost, invites guests into its embrace. It is in these hallways where the silence is heavy and unnatural that the true nature of the Sagamore reveals itself. The hotel functions as a massive battery, storing the residual energy of every argument and every heartbreak and every death that has occurred within its walls since the beginning. Among the most famous of the spectral residents is a spirit known to the staff and locals simply as Walter. Walter was a man who lived for the sport of golf and the camaraderie of the club. In life, he was a frequent visitor who found solace on the rolling greens of the island course. His attachment to the location was so profound that even death could not sever the bond he shared with the land. Legend states that Walter frequents the golf course, particularly the areas near the first tee and the pro shop. He is not a malevolent force, but rather a lingering memory of a time when the resort was his sanctuary. Witnesses describe him as a solid figure who vanishes when approached. The story of Walter takes a turn toward the eerie when guests recount their interactions with him on the course. Many golfers have reported seeing a man dressed in attire from the 1930s, searching intently for a lost ball in the rough. He seems oblivious to the modern players around him, focused entirely on his eternal game. When a helpful golfer approaches to offer assistance or point out a lost ball, the figure of Walter dissolves into the mist, leaving the witness standing alone in the chill morning air. His presence is a reminder that for some, the obsessions of life carry over into the afterlife, creating a loop of behavior that repeats without end. Inside the main hotel, the atmosphere shifts from the open-air haunts of the golf course to the claustrophobic dread of the interior. The corridors of the second floor are the domain of a spirit known as the silver-haired woman. She is described as a dignified lady wearing a polka dot dress with silver hair that shines with an ethereal light. Unlike Walter, who seems caught in a loop, The silver-haired woman appears to be intelligent and aware of the living. She has been seen entering hotel rooms uninvited, passing through locked doors as if they were made of mist. Her visits are often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature that chills the bone. Housekeepers and cleaning staff have reported the most frequent encounters with the silver-haired woman. They speak of entering a room to prepare it for new guests, only to find the woman sitting on the edge of the bed or standing by the window looking out at the lake. She does not speak, but her gaze is piercing and filled with a profound sadness. Before the staff member can speak or flee, the woman fades away, leaving behind the scent of old lavender perfume. Some staff refuse to work on the second floor alone, fearing that one day the woman will not vanish, but will instead deliver a message that they are not prepared to receive. The presence of children is often associated with innocence and joy, but at the Sagamore, the laughter of children is a source of terror. Guests staying on the third floor have frequently complained to the front desk about children running and playing in the hallways late at night. They describe the sound of small feet thumping on the carpet and the giggling of boys and girls engaged in a game of tag. When security guards investigate these complaints, they find the corridors completely empty. There are no children to be found, and the silence that greets the guards is heavy with expectation. The phantom children are heard, but rarely seen, creating a sense of unease that prevents sleep. One specific child spirit has been identified by paranormal investigators and longtime staff members as a boy named Billy. The legend of Billy varies depending on who tells the story, but the core tragedy remains the same. Some say he was a child who wandered onto the golf course in the early 20th century and was struck by a wayward golf ball that ended his life instantly. Others claim he was hit by a vehicle near the service entrance while chasing a toy. Regardless of the cause of his death, Billy has become a permanent fixture of the Sagamore. He is a mischievous spirit who enjoys playing pranks on the living, turning a tragic death into a haunting game. Billy is most often sighted in the kitchen area or near the golf course where he met his untimely end. Chefs and kitchen staff have reported pans falling off hooks without explanation and stove knobs turning on by themselves. In the high-stress environment of a commercial kitchen, these pranks can be dangerous and terrifying. The staff have learned to announce their presence to the empty room, hoping to appease the spirit of the boy. There is a sadness to his pranks, a cry for attention from a child who was taken before his time. He wanders the spaces between the walls, seeking playmates who can never truly interact with him. The terror of the Sagamore is not limited to guests and kitchen staff, but extends to the very structure of the building itself. The elevators in the hotel are a focal point for supernatural activity that defies mechanical explanation. Guests have reported pressing the button for their floor, only for the elevator to descend to the basement, or stop on an empty floor where the doors open to reveal darkness. On occasion, the elevator doors will open to reveal a woman dressed in white standing in the hallway. She does not enter the car, but stares blankly at the occupants until the doors slide shut again, leaving them trapped in the metal box with their fear. One of the most disturbing elevator encounters involves a spirit known as the Nanny. She is often seen on the upper floors, pushing an old-fashioned pram or carriage. The sound of the wheels squeaking on the floorboards is distinct and rhythmic, growing louder as she approaches. Guests who have looked into the pram report seeing nothing but a void, or sometimes a sleeping pale face that does not look human. The Nanny is a protective entity, often appearing when children are present in the hotel, but her protection feels possessive and menacing. She roams the halls, ensuring that her charges are safe even if her charges have been dead for decades. The dining experiences at the Sagamore offer luxury and fine cuisine, but they also offer a side of spectral drama. The main dining room is said to be haunted by a quarrelsome couple who engaged in a violent dispute decades ago. Witnesses have described seeing a man and a woman dressed in 1920s evening wear sitting at a corner table. They appear to be in the midst of a heated argument, with the woman gesturing wildly and the man looking furious. Just as the argument seems about to turn physical, the couple vanishes, leaving the silverware rattling on the table. The negative energy of their relationship has stained the room forever. The Trillium is one of the fine dining restaurants within the resort and acts as another hotspot for paranormal activity. It is here that a spirit of a man with a walrus mustache has been seen by patrons and staff alike. He is often spotted sitting alone, appearing to wait for a dinner companion who never arrives. His attire suggests he is from the late 19th century, perhaps a guest from the era of the first hotel. He exudes an aura of impatience and annoyance, often startling guests who mistake him for a living person until he dissolves before their eyes. His eternal wait is a tragic reminder of unfinished business. Staff members who work the night shift often bear the brunt of the hauntings, as they are alone in the vast spaces of the hotel. A security guard once reported doing his rounds in the basement laundry area when he felt a cold hand grab his shoulder. He spun around, expecting to see a coworker, but found himself alone in the dimly lit room. The grip was firm and aggressive, leaving a physical sensation that lingered long after the encounter. He refused to return to the basement alone, forcing the management to assign unparalleled shifts for the safety of the mind of the employee. The maintenance tunnels that run beneath the resort are perhaps the most frightening location on the island. These narrow concrete passages carry the pipes and wiring that keep the luxury hotel running, but they also channel the dark energy of the site. Workers have reported hearing voices echoing down the tunnels, speaking in hushed tones. Tools vanish from tool belts, only to reappear in impossible places days later. The feeling of being followed is constant in the tunnels, a predatory sensation that raises the hair on the back of the neck. It is the belly of the beast, where the facade of luxury is stripped away to reveal the cold, concrete reality of the haunting. Rumors persist of a dark event involving a woman who took her own life in one of the guest rooms during the 1940s. Though the hotel records are silent on the matter, the oral history of the staff keeps the story alive. It is said she hanged herself after receiving news of her husband's death in the war. Guests staying in that specific room have reported waking up in the middle of the night with a feeling of suffocation. Some have claimed to see a shadow hanging from the ceiling light fixture, swaying gently in the stagnant air. The despair of her final moments is replayed night after night, infecting the dreams of those who sleep there. The phenomenon of the phantom golfer extends beyond Walter to include other unidentified figures on the green. Early morning joggers have reported seeing a group of men standing on the fairway, dressed in knickers and flat caps. The group appears to be discussing a shot or a scorecard, but no sound reaches the ears of the witness. As the sun rises and the mist burns off the lake, the group fades away like a mirage. These echoes of the past suggest that the land itself has recorded the habits of the thousands of people who have walked upon it, playing back the images like a broken film projector. The connection between the water of Lake George and the hauntings cannot be ignored. Water is often cited in paranormal lore as a conductor for spiritual energy, and the lake surrounds the hotel on all sides. The depth of the lake holds its own secrets, including shipwrecks and drowning victims from centuries past. It is believed by some mediums that the water acts as a barrier, trapping the spirits on Green Island and preventing them from crossing over. The spirits are marooned on this luxurious rock, forced to wander the hotel that has replaced the natural landscape they once knew. During the winter months, when the lake freezes over and the snow blankets the resort, the hauntings seem to intensify. The isolation becomes absolute, with the white landscape blurring the line between earth and sky. It is during these quiet months that the sounds of the hotel become most distinct. The creaking of the floorboard sounds like footsteps, and the settling of the building sounds like slamming doors. The skeleton crew that maintains the resort during the off-season lives in a constant state of high alert, sharing stories of shadows that move independently of any light source. The grand staircase in the lobby is another focal point for residual energy. Brides who have their photos taken on the stairs have reported anomalies in their wedding pictures. Orbs of light and translucent figures often appear in the background of joyous photos, photobombing the celebration with a reminder of mortality. One famous photograph allegedly shows a faint face peering over the railing, looking down at the bridal party with an expression of envy. It is as if the spirits of the past are jealous of the life and happiness that fills the hotel during these events. There is a legend of a spirit called the Fat Man who haunts the corridors near the kitchen and the service elevators. He is described as a jovial but imposing figure who enjoys startling the waitstaff. Unlike the tragic figures of the suicide victim or the lost boy, the Fat Man seems to revel in the chaos he creates. He has been blamed for knocking over stacks of trays and blowing out pilot lights. His presence is accompanied by the smell of cigar smoke, a scent that has been banned in the hotel for decades, yet appears spontaneously in his wake. The psychological impact of these hauntings on the guests is profound and lasting. Many check out early, unable to withstand the oppressive atmosphere of their rooms. They leave reviews citing uncomfortable beds or noisy neighbors. But the truth is often much darker. They are fleeing a feeling of intrusion, a sense that they are sharing their private space with something that does not belong. The hotel management is aware of the reputation, but rarely acknowledges it, publicly preferring to sell the luxury rather than the ghost story. Yet the stories spread through word of mouth, drawing thrill seekers to the island. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Sagamore have captured numerous electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs. These recordings often contain whispers and cries that are inaudible to the human ear. One chilling recording, captured in the main dining room, contains a voice saying, "Simply get out." Another recording from the basement features a child singing a nursery rhyme that abruptly ends in a static scream. These pieces of evidence suggest that the entities are not just residual recordings, but active intelligences that are aware of the living and perhaps resentful of their presence. The concept of time on Green Island seems distorted, as if the past and present are overlapping. Guests have reported seeing the hotel as it appeared in the 1920s for a brief, flickering moment. They see staff in period uniforms and guests in vintage clothing before the image snaps back to the modern day. These time slips are disorienting, causing dizziness and nausea in those who experience them. It is a terrifying reminder that our perception of reality is fragile, and that the walls between dimensions are thin in places where tragedy has occurred. The haunting of the Sagamore is not a single story, but a collection of narratives woven into the fabric of the building. Each ghost represents a different facet of the human experience: tragedy, obsession, grief, and anger. They are bound together by the location, forced to share the hallways of the hotel for eternity. The silver-haired woman and Walter and Billy and the nanny form a macabre community of the dead. They are the permanent residents of the luxury resort, while the living are merely temporary guests passing through their domain. Even the surrounding grounds are not safe from the supernatural influence. The bridge that connects Green Island to the mainland is a threshold that some spirits cannot cross. Witnesses have reported seeing figures standing at the end of the bridge, staring longingly at the town of Bolton Landing. They seem tethered to the island by an invisible chain, unable to take the final step to freedom. This entrapment adds a layer of melancholy to the horror, painting the ghosts as prisoners rather than monsters. The luxury of the Sagamore serves as a gilded mask for the decay that lies beneath the surface. The plush carpets and crystal chandeliers distract the eye from the shadows that lengthen in the corners. The meticulous landscaping hides the soil that has absorbed the ashes of the original hotel. It is a place of duality, where wealth and death hold hands. The beauty of the lake is reflected in the windows, but the windows also reflect the faces of those who are no longer there. As night falls over Lake George, the resort transforms into a beacon of light in the darkness. But for those who know the history, the lights are not welcoming, but warning. The silence of the lake is broken only by the lapping of the waves and the occasional cry of a loon. Inside the hotel, the guests sleep in their expensive beds, unaware that they are being watched. The spirits of the Sagamore resume their nightly patrols, walking the floors they once walked in life. The Sagamore Resort remains a jewel of the Adirondacks, a place of high society and relaxation. But it is also a place where the veil is thin and the dead speak to those who will listen. The haunting is not a flaw of the hotel, but a feature of its history, a permanent stain that cannot be scrubbed away. As long as the hotel stands on Green Island, the spirits will remain. They are the legacy of the land, the echo of the past, and the lingering dread that follows every guest home. So the next time you find yourself on the shores of Lake George, looking out at the White Castle on the island, remember that you are looking at a mausoleum of memories. The luxury is real, but so are the ghosts. And if you choose to cross the bridge and stay the night, be prepared for the possibility that you might not be sleeping alone. The Sagamore is waiting, and its residents are dying to meet you.